Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with the Green Scorpion. And tonight, I hope you brought your umbrella, because we got the top 10 video game Parasol Wielders. Yeah, one of the more unconventional types, an umbrella. I thought you'd see that being used as a weapon, but then again, it has been used in history sometimes. Looking at the umbrella gun. So, let's see who uses the best. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's see who uses the umbrella the best as a weapon. So I had nothing else really. Let's see.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
Hey, Peach.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go. Go to engage. Start it up.
Welcome back, Weathered Warriors, to Weapons Month 5. I'm the Green Scorpion, and last time, we dealt with some heavy metal mayhem. But for this countdown, we'll be pursuing a lighter method. Every Weapons Month, I like to include at least one choice that's a little out there and honor a rare discipline of combat that's more common than you might think. So for our fourth list, we'll be opening up our parasols. Made up of a rod and an opening canopy, parasols were never meant for anything but shading us from the sun. Or the rain, in which case it's called an umbrella, but for the sake of this list, we can use the two terms interchangeably. And believe it or not, there's some precedent in history for using them as improvised weapons. In feudal Asian villages, access to metal weapons were sometimes outlawed, so it was important to be able to defend yourself with household objects, the same way weapons like tonfas and kamas were developed. And in the 1800s, when umbrellas became commonly owned by the working class, a fighting style called baritsu incorporated them as a possible substitute for a fighting cane. Bend the laws of physics a little bit, and suddenly parasols are bursting with useful features. The ends of them are pointed like a spear, the open fabric could act as a shield, and we've seen many cartoon characters parachuting to the earth with them. Characters often conceal other weapons in their rain gear, like Penguin with his machine gun or Hagrid with his wand. Or you can go full Kingsman and trick your umbrella out with additional gadgets. Just as parasols became fashion statements and status symbols in France, the battle umbrella sacrifices practicality and realism for a sense of elegance and style. No particular rules this time other than the regular Weapons Month stipulations. If they're from a video game I played and they can bash baddies with a bumbershoot, they're eligible. So let's see who's got it made in the shade. These are the top 10 video game Parasol Wielders.
This should be fun. First up.
So, as a character designer, why would you choose to make your character fight with a parasol? Well, in many cases, it's about completing a look of demure and sophistication. But in the case of our number 10 entrant, it's a way of giving the hero a weapon without actually giving them a weapon. Eternal Sonata is a 2007 JRPG taking place in a fantasy world imagined by classical composer Frédéric Chopin while he's on his deathbed. Pretty artsy stuff, I know. The first person Chopin meets in this Oz-like journey of introspection is a girl named Polka. She has magical powers, which in this world is a symptom of a terminal disease, something she's pretty damn stigmatized for. But despite everyone's cruelty towards her, she's resolved to use her powers and the little time she has left to do as much good as possible. Polka's kind of a Mary Sue, her only character flaw is that she's so cute and precious, but Eternal Sonata is the perfect place for that. If you know a little about Chopin, you'll know that Polka is the same age his sister was when she died of tuberculosis, and you'll realize Polka exists as his idealized version of her. You have this perfect altruist who would never choose violence as her first option, but this is an RPG and she needs to fight. What do? Give her a weapon that isn't a weapon. If a character has a sword or a shield or a mech suit, it immediately implies that they expect to be in a fight. Polka just has her dainty accessory. She didn't expect to be in this kind of conflict. But if she absolutely has to...
Extreme combo!
Considering that Polka's more of a mage/healer than a frontline fighter, her physical damage output isn't bad. It's not great either, and there were more aggressive options that could have been here, but I like Polka at number 10. Her parasol is an example of how to arm your protagonist without compromising their gentle nature.
There you go, Polka. Man, look at the health bar.
There is another reason why someone might fight with a parasol. So that everyone will think they're not a fighter. And for that, we have Setsuka from the Soul Calibur series. Born on a boat sailing from Portugal to Japan, which is kinda neat actually, since Maritsu is a mixture of Eastern and Western fighting styles, Setsuko was orphaned at a young age and raised by a hermit named Shugen, who taught her the way of the sword. But when Shugen is mortally wounded in a duel, Setsuka sets out to find and kill the man responsible, Haishiro Mitsurugi. Setsuka's design takes inspiration from a number of revenge stories, most directly Shurayuki Hime, or Lady Snowheart, a Japanese manga and film character from the 70s who seduces men before slitting their throats with a concealed blade. Like Snowheart,
and the umbrella,
Setsuka's sword
guessing right.
hides in the handle of her parasol. Presumably with this ploy, Setsuka's ended many fights before her opponents even know they've started. But even in battle, the parasol serves an important function as a sword's hilt. Versed in a style not unlike Bushido, Setsuka spends a lot of combat with the blade tucked away. This is based on the real-world samurai technique Yaijutsu. By hiding the blade, Setsuka's opponent has trouble gauging the reach of the weapon, nor can they predict just how fast she is on the mortal draw. Setsuka loses some reach with this strategy, but has some of the quickest attacks in the game. A few moves even utilize the canopy. Setsuka can create some breathing room between her and her opponent by suddenly expanding the parasol, catching many fighters off guard. And her critical edge uses the parasol as a misdirect, hiding behind it until...
Boom! From behind. Perfect.
This is the work of fate. I merely played my part.
Setsuka is a deceptively dangerous fighter. She may look like a delicate snowflower, but under those petals are some
deal with
serious
Kunoichi.
thorns.
Depart! You won't even know what hit you. Yet another opponent unworthy of my blade.
Damn.
For Setsuka,
Right?
her sword and her parasol are two halves of the same weapon. But Shizumaru Hisame from Samurai Showdown sees no reason to combine them. Why not use a full sword and a full umbrella at the same time?
Oh, it's an Ronin.
Shizumaru is your typical anime sword fighter with amnesia. He doesn't remember his parentage, and all of the others in his village steer away from him, thinking he might be a demon or an ogre in disguise. This actually might be true. I could never find a straight answer. Maybe he's a half-ogre, maybe he has layers. He's had this sword with him since before he can remember, but fearing its possible connotations, Shizumaru relies more on his traveling umbrella in his first appearance, Samurai Showdown 3. He meets the series' main samurai, Haomaru, who teaches him the philosophy of the blade, that he doesn't need to fear it if he wields it responsibly. And from that point forward, his moveset gets more reliant on the sword and less on the parasol in each successive game. You'd think this would put him below Setsuka for this list, but there are a few aspects about Shizumaru that make me want to rank him a little higher. Despite Haomaru's lessons, Shizumaru taps more into his angst when he uses a sword, as if the sword represents his theoretical demonic side, whereas the parasol reflects his gentler human nature. For one of his most famous moves, Amangare Kyorakuzan, Shizumaru goes so far as to cast away his umbrella and his restraint with it in order to commit brutal slashing attacks. So yeah, that's using the sword.
The fact he was just like able to...
Psychologically, the fact that he has made this association with the parasol is what lets him manage these sides of his personality, and he always catches it again before it can hit the ground. Fun fact, Shizumaru was actually planned to appear in Samurai Showdown 64, but was cut because it would have been too hard to render the umbrella with the low poly count. If he couldn't bring the umbrella, Shizumaru was not interested. And symbology aside, there is one more ability in Shizumaru's favor. This spinning move where the umbrella basically becomes a blue buzzsaw for a moment. Are the sides of that canopy bladed? Did he sew razors into the perimeter? Or is this just cool? I'm gonna say it's just cool.
Yeah, honestly, I think it could have gone both ways. Like, could be edged, it could be not, but still, that is actually really cool. Like, back you could just go up and just spin around to, like, chop chop. Sorry. But still, you got him in. Pretty interesting. And let's see who's next after Shizumaru. I don't think they ever did figure out, like, who he was. I don't know, but...
MOBA games are weird. They all have names like something of something, and
Here's
after you've played a few of them, the rosters start to bleed together in your mind. I didn't find a satisfying Parasol League, aside from stuff like Forecast Jana, but no worries. The parent company that owns Riot Games, Tencent, has another MOBA game for phones called Arena of Valor, where I still didn't find what I was looking for. But go a little deeper, and it turns
Anywhere
out
else?
Arena of Valor is just an international version of the Chinese-published Honor of Kings, with a lot of characters redesigned. In this original version, we find a dancing bunny girl named Gongsun Li and her oil-painted parasol. Because Honor of Kings is only in China, information about it is a little scarce. I get that she's
Unless you got a
dancer and
translation.
that she has some kind of autumnal magic manipulating wind and fire, and from the gameplay I've watched, she seems like the umbrella-wielding league champion I've always wanted. Hard to say though, I will likely never play this game. I
True.
only know about this character at all because
Showdown
in
in Honor of Kings.
2020, Gongsun Li was added as a guest character to Samurai Showdown. So as far as I'm concerned, she's a fighting game character. I do have a strict one per franchise policy for these lists, and I just
this
included
counts,
Shizumaru
considering-
from the same game. But Gongsun Li's not from that game. She's from something of something.
Honor of Kings.
Loophole!
Pretty much.
Gongsun Li's unknown sorcery allows her to move and manipulate the parasol without even touching it, leading to a variety of crazy mix-ups. She also has impressive range on her stab attack, treating it like a lance. She's got some dangerous anti-air attacks that flip her opponents into a parasol-powered blender, and she can even throw the parasol, taking advantage of its unique aerodynamics. But then it kind of just floats there, held up by wind magic. Why? Well, Samurai Showdown has an integral disarming mechanic. Usually if a character is disarmed, this severely limits their attack options until they can collect their weapon again. But Gongsun Li is unique with her many moves that disarm herself. With the umbrella deployed, she can detonate it into a tornado of wind magic, or she can teleport herself to the handle, providing infinite ways to approach her opponent. I don't know why she's here, what
I'd be
she's fighting
surprised.
for, or anything else about her backstory. That's a rabbit hole I wasn't going down. But what I do know is that this bunny trounces the competition. Sorry,
It's in the magic,
Shizumaru,
not surprised.
It's gotta hurt being the second best parasol fighter in your own game.
Especially one that's from a different game.
勝者オーソンリ
Good job, Gongsun Li.
これ以上怪我じゃ済みませんよ
Number 6 coming up.
Is a dancing bunny girl too much fan service for you? Well, I've got some bad
Incoming.
news. This is the list that finally made me talk about Senran Kagura.
Oh, yeah,
Senran
that
Kagura
one.
is a very niche series about a harem of teenage girls training to become shinobi, fighting in 1 vs 100 Dynasty Warrior scenarios, and blasting the clothes off of each other with over-the-top attacks.
Yep.
I'm no prude or anything, I love cheesecake as much as the next guy, but
Really?
this is a lot. But we're not here to judge anyone's moe preference. We're here to judge their parasol fighting skills. And Senran
Yeah.
Kagura actually gives us 2 outstanding choices, both of
Well,
which have
Nagi.
eye patches coincidentally. First there's Mirai, who hides an arsenal of guns in her umbrella and dress, sort of the next logical step to Setsuka's secret sword umbrella. But I decided to instead go with Yagyu, who makes much more use of the umbrella itself. Just by watching, you can see that she's pretty competent with the thing, bashing back the adolescent hordes and firing unexplained energy blasts from its point. She's also sharpened the spokes around the side into razor spikes, now that's pretty rad. I'm just not sure why she picked a parasol for her moveset. Ninjutsu is a versatile
me.
martial art, I'm never surprised to see a ninja weaponizing anything. Just, usually the parasolists have some kind of look that they're going for, and nothing about Yagyu is particularly elegant. It's like the eye patch, or the fact that she can summon a giant octopus, just sort of arbitrary. Well,
Pretty much.
okay, there is a reason for the eye patch. Yagyu lost her little sister in a car accident, and to make sure that she always remembers her, Yagyu wears her old ribbon over her face at all times.
That's a
strange
ribbon?
way to go about it, but okay. This also makes her hesitant to make any friends because she doesn't want to lose anyone else, but she eventually
Poor
does
Yagyu.
form a strong sisterly relationship with Hibari. So
course you
maybe
do.
the parasol represents how she keeps herself guarded because the parasol shields you from
Mm.
sight? Or how she's slowly learning to open up again? Like a parasol?
Yeah, it could be either
I'm
or.
kind of at a loss for symbolic significance here, but maybe for once it's okay to just say, hey, watch this girl beat up a bunch of other girls with her anti-sun stick. It's Senran Kagura, just turn your brain off.
Yeah, I think that's the appeal. Feels the horny men. Number 5 coming up.
もう終わりか
I don't think Zelda fans have come to terms yet with the fact that Triforce Heroes is canon. Yeah, this silly adventure where Link works with a collection of other Links to save the fashion-obsessed kingdom of Hytopia is on the official Zelda timeline.
Wow.
Which puts Lady Maud in the same
Maud.
echelon as other beloved villains like Zant and Vati.
Wow.
Wrap your head around that one. Lady Maud, sometimes just called the Lady, is from an order of witches who can
Alright,
weave
Maud.
magic into clothing. Her little sister, Madame Couture, uses this power to design fashionable, functional outfits for citizens and heroes alike. But Maud got voted off of Hytopia's next top model, leading to her sequester in the Drablands and stew in tacky isolation, eventually taking her revenge by cursing Hytopia's princess into an irremovable featureless bodysuit. Oh dear lord, the horror. I mean, maybe it was revenge, though Maud claims that this was a sincere attempt to improve her look. Okay, that's pretty sad.
Doubt it.
The name Maud is actually a play on mod, a popular trend from 1960s England,
M-A-U-D,
and
by
the
the way.
lady's ensemble is pretty close to it, the linchpin of her outfit being that pearly pink umbrella. We actually had another umbrella boss that almost made the list, Bloodless from the Bloodstained games. Similar to
I'm
Maud,
guessing
the
you're gonna
Parasol
play it?
complete her gothic Lolita theme and give her fight a sense of sinister class. But not only does Bloodless not actually attack with the umbrellas much, she's more what I would call a hemomancer. The umbrellas actually help her opponents by acting as cover and platforms. Still great from a visual standpoint, but Maud's boss fight does it better in execution. A 3-phase gauntlet which will put your cooperation with the other players to the test. The battle sees her boomeranging umbrellas, harpooning
Why don't you actually
umbrellas
do
into
this
the
with, like,
ground
the
that act as
Switch,
lightning
'cause
rods, flailing the thing about like she's shooting away a cat. She even uses it for her version of the classic Dead Man's Volley. And she gets a gauche new costume for every phase. She's a total diva and I love it. In her third phase, her costume changes into this
Jesus,
3-layer
Vic.
cake dress with orbiting umbrellas. And yes, this kind of falls into the same trap as Bloodless with her para-platforms. But by this point, Maud's earned it. She's doing this part for the aesthetic, and with the color coding that only accepts certain links on board, this might still be the move that wipes out your party. After Maud's defeat, you can even rob her look and put together the lady's ensemble, a health-boosting dress armor with the umbrella subbing as a sword. So, who wore it better? Did I mention that this umbrella has the power to remove the princess's curse and take away the Link's items before every boss fight? It's the one accessory to rule them all. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Lady Maud again, even as a Hyrule Warriors rep. She definitely deserves at least a little respect. She's a ridiculous villain, but Triforce Heroes is a ridiculous game. And if you think it's too silly for the Zelda canon, you and I remember this franchise very differently.
Amen. You kind of have to expect it with, like, you know, Legend of Zelda. Ba-boom. Sorry, Lady Maud. You're done. Number 4.
Obvious choice incoming.
Oh, hi, Peach. Where's that Daisy?
It's always interesting putting Mario characters in weapons mode. It's not a particularly combat-heavy franchise, but certain characters have strong associations with certain items, even if they don't always have them. Luigi only uses the Poltergust in a handful of games, but if I ever did a top 10 vacuum wielders, you know you're gonna see him there. And even though Peach doesn't have her parasol in most of her hundreds of appearances, she is the very symbol for this category. Princess Toadstool's first use of the tool, if I remember right, is Super Mario RPG. After you rescue her midway through the game, her Chancellor insists that she stay home while Mario goes out to save the world. Next thing we know, Peach is sneaking out the window Mary Poppins style, and the parasol becomes one of her equipable
Mary
weapons.
Poppins, y'all.
Far from the best, but enough to inspire a move in Super Smash Bros. Melee, where she performs a rising stab and then gently descends to Earth. Unlike most other recovery moves that force a character into a freefall, this stacks with another pre-established Peach ability, using her dress to float short distances in games like Mario 2. In the USA, that is. Damn it, Lost Levels. So Peach became associated with having a lot of hang time and aerial superiority. And though it was just for appearances, her summer parasol in Mario Sunshine cemented the item as part of Peach's iconography. There's plenty of instances where she has it, violent and non-violent, but there are 3 games that best highlight Peach's parasoling prowess. First is Yoshi's Island DS, where it turns out even the infant princess liked to stay in the shade. Literally a newborn, and she already has an umbrella capable of supporting the weight of a dinosaur for extended jumps. How sturdy are Mushroom Kingdom's fashion accessories? Seriously.
You'd be surprised.
Second is, of course, Super Princess Peach, a criminally underrated adventure where Peach wields a sentient parasol named Perry. I never cared for Perry as a character, but he rules as a weapon. Peach can fire charge shots, shovel enemies, umbrella ground pound, umbrella lily pad, it even transforms into a submarine. And this rail riding mode where Peach hooks Perry into the zipline and sits in the canopy? I don't know why, but this freaking rules. Third and finally, Super Paper Mario. Peach is playable with the usual extended floating, but also an unbreakable umbrella shield. For real, this is the most OP thing in the game.
Excuse me.
Turtle against bosses indefinitely. Seriously, just slap whatever material they use for that thing on a tank and bam, unstoppable tanks. So, while the final
Pretty
three
much
entries have better offense with their weapons and utilize more flash and panache, always remember that Peach is stupid powerful when she wants to be. I think it's time to give Peach another try with her own game. Or at the very least, just coronate her already. I'll miss the alliteration, but Peach is a queen.
Amen to that. And actually, we are getting like a, a new Peach game coming out. Though, not sure she actually is going to use the Parasol, but we got a goal they actually did. From what I've seen, looks like a theater production. I think. Not sure if Bowser's involved, but like I said, we don't know much about it, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that game. Anywho, we're almost to the end. Let's keep going. Moving along. Number 3.
Peach is great and all, but Skullgirls has its own killer princess, and Parasol is her middle name. Well, okay, no, actually, Parasol is her first name, and she fights with a parasol. Parasol's parasol, if you will. Okay, this is gonna get confusing.
Parasol?
Let's just call her weapon by its name, Krieg. Yes, her weapon has a name. Parasol's parents were the king and queen of the Canopy Kingdom, which is pioneering in the technology of living weapons. And for some reason, most of them are umbrellas. Her mom has an umbrella scythe, her dad has an umbrella rifle, and her sister has an umbrella. What the fuck is that thing? Okay, back on topic.
Did say living weapon.
Parasol's weapon, Krieg, is an 8-eyed umbrella that, get this, cries napalm.
Wait,
Turns out the best way to make it cry is with Parasol's Luger P08. Pistols and parasols. What a combo. Well, most of the time, Parasol fights with Krieg folded as if he were a rapier. Her fencing form makes her movement a little stiff, and for an umbrella wielder, it's strange that she doesn't have great aerial movement. But she makes up for this with surprising range. And aside from the black egrets, Parasol's secret service that follows her everywhere, Parasol's best gimmick are those napalm shots, letting her set up traps and prolong combos. The tears even defy gravity. Now, I feel a potential criticism here, that she doesn't use Krieg much as an umbrella. Most of her moveset would have worked just as well with a saber. She depends on her henchmen for many of her specials, and the napalm shots aren't a typical feature of umbrellas. But play as Parasol for a few rounds, and you start to see the big picture. The blade-tipped umbrella with Parasol's silky dress, it's all very spy chic. And unlike most of the game's cast, Parasol carries herself very solemnly, like she's attending a funeral. Probably for a death in progress. All of these features come together in her blockbuster. She calls in a firing squad of black egrets, opens up Krieg, and everyone unloads their weapons into Krieg's frame, causing him to shoot out a torrent of incendiary projectiles at the opponent. I feel like everything about her design has led to this single ultra move, and it was totally worth it. It's also worth noting that Parasol's little sister Umbrella is slated to be the next playable character. She might be out by the time this video drops. We haven't seen her moveset yet, maybe she'll impress me even more. But for now, I'm perfectly happy giving Parasol the game, so I don't know. She's sinister, sophisticated, and thanks to Krieg's shape, her fencing strikes have this perfect sense of weight to them. I'm very eager to see how Parasol's Parasol compares to Umbrella's Umbrella.
Oh, Umbrella. Seriously, what is that?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Stop, yeah. It's a wrap.
Alright, show's over.
Number 2?
We used Dynasty Warriors a few times on our list, most recently in Shield Wielders. But today, we're looking at its sister series, Samurai Warriors. Not to be confused with Samurai Showdown, Samurai Warriors is Koei's same Dynasty Warriors formula, only applied to the Japanese Sengoku period rather than Three Kingdoms China. Again, all of these characters are based on real historical figures, but none so interestingly as Okuni, the Parasol Beauty. Seriously, I was researching the real-world Okuni for this list, and she's kind of one of my heroes now. Izumo no Okuni was a shrine maiden who, as a way of earning money for her shrine's upkeep, started performing in variety shows of songs, dancing, and sketches, credited as the invention of Kabuki theater. Now, those of you versed in Japanese culture may know that Kabuki, even today, is traditionally a men-only practice. But actually, Okuni invented it with a troupe of all women, usually taking in peasants, prostitutes, and any girls in need of direction in their lives. Her Kabuki shows were considered avant-garde at the time, offbeat but strangely compelling, and could be rather risque. And it wasn't until Okuni's retirement that the shogunate decreed women could no longer perform Kabuki in an attempt at morally cleansing the populace. But even so, Izumo no Okuni stood for spirituality, tranquility, a little good-natured sexuality, and helping the downtrodden to make a more peaceful world.
What a woman.
As an adaptation of the historic figure, Okuni in Samurai Warriors is right on the money. The Parasol feels like a perfect fit, the kind of thing you might see in an Eastern stage performance, and a lot of her moves involve multiple spins in place, like she's dancing. Okuni isn't assigned to any particular state or clan in these games. She more so finds herself in the middle of big battles and usually just wants to put a stop to them, including missions where you lead her to different stages, hoping her dance might suit the combatants around her. Nothing about her parasol looks lethal, no blades added or hidden swords, so I can even believe she's just knocking all these soldiers over rather than killing them. The voice direction isn't doing her any favors,
just knocking them out.
but it doesn't feel out of character for her to be flirty with her allies or downright seductive to her fallen foes. Everything about Okuni is very performative.
You're so young and cute. I bet you make a great dancer.
In fact, in the games where Okuni doesn't get a story mode, Okuni will even break the fourth wall and complain about the emission. This really is just another show to her. Now, I know back at number 6 I gave Yagyu a hard time. She's also a conventionally attractive woman fighting hordes with a parasol, but I think Okuni ties the tropes together more conducively. Not only could the parasol be a prop in one of Okuni's shows, it could also be ceremonial, tying back to her career as a shrine maiden. In her later game appearances, Okuni takes on a cherry blossom theme. And for those of you who don't know, cherry blossoms are a symbol of life and death in Japanese iconography, which dovetails with Okuni's acting as a guide for departed spirits, pacifying the living and seeing off the dead.
like a shrine maiden.
That's pretty cool. Almost as cool as spinning her umbrella like a dreidel to launch all of her enemies skyward. Now, one more thing. Koei likes to carry its renditions of these heroes through multiple franchises, like Warriors Orochi, where the Dynasty and Samurai series cross over. And it turns out Okuni gets along really well with Dynasty's Diao-chan, who you may remember from way back when we did Whip Wielders. And throughout these multiple franchises, these characters are treated to be the same, at least in personality. So Okuni's also made appearances in the strategy series Nobunaga's Ambition, and hilariously in Pokemon Conquest. She even still has the Parasol and a Volcarona as her partner. Okay, that's pretty awesome. What a claim to fame. Inventing a prolific genre of theater and getting an official Pokemon OC. And now she can add second best Parasol wielder in gaming to that resume.
Well, there you go, Okuni. Welcome aboard.
And things were just getting interesting.
And the number 1 Parasol wielder is?
I don't always know going in who my number 1 is going to be. Even after I compile all of the possible entrants, sometimes it's not until I dig through the research that I recognize the cream of the crop. And I make sure to go through every franchise I've played on my big Excel sheet of video games, even if the character is from a game in the franchise that I haven't played yet. And being a moderately big fan of the Tales series, I actually never played Zestiria until recently. It doesn't seem to be anyone's favorite installment, moving in a different direction from past Tales games, with Berseria handling that direction better. But it's the only game with Edna, and she is delightful. Born Hefsin Yuland, Edna is a member of the Seraphim, a race of elemental spirits that are pivotal to the world's balance. Think of them like the summon spirits from any other Tales games, or summons, espers, aeons, etc. from any JRPG, just even more humanized. While she looks like a petite human preteen, she's been learning to kick ass for over 1,000 years. Judging by the umbrella, try and guess what element she's associated with. Wrong, it's Earth.
Yeah.
Edna is able to effortlessly manipulate
You can actually tell sometimes with the color.
Or deadly spires, and the umbrella is her attempt at versatility. By channeling her mana through the object commonly associated with other elements, Edna is able to create some unique effects. So umbrellas are made for stopping water and can catch the wind, right? Well, combining earth and water magic gives Edna access to ice powers for some reason. I guess the idea is that it's water in a solid rock-like state. And earth plus wind starts bending gravity, creating voids and miniature black holes. That one actually makes a little sense in a weird way. Airborne ground, it's a paradox. So Edna's a caster then, right? Well, that was fine for Polka at the number 10 spot, but here at the pinnacle, I want to see the weapon in action, not just as a glorified arcane focus. Well, no worries, Edna's not just a ranged spellcaster like Genus or Rita.
You'll be upside the head with it.
That too. No, The bulk of Edna's arts combine her spells with the weapon for some melee magic. She's a magus, channeling mana through the parasol and releasing it by either pointing, spinning, or opening the thing, which leads to moves where Edna can make it snow out of the canopy, create icicles that spin around the rim, sit in the umbrella and Beyblade. Hell, her umbrella can make it rain! Cutscenes with her are always fun, too. Even among her immortal beings, she can be incredibly apathetic to the plights of humanity, leading to a lot of conversations where she's just bored as hell with everyone's drama.
Edna, watch where you swing that thing!
This is why I despise humans.
And the
Why?
way she moves across in cutscenes.
But then again, I think it's because
Parasol
of
and the Titanic
the loss of her brother.
geomancy is a hilarious contrast. When she first meets the party, she's not really interested in helping, so she just yeets herself out on a stone catapult and
See ya.
parachutes over the horizon. Oh, I get it now. She's basically Toph, a sassy little girl with tectonic shifting powers. Beasts like this giant minotaur tremble in fear when they make eye contact with her. And they're right to be scared. We haven't even covered the mystic arts yet. Using Terramine, Edna fires pure Gaia energy out of her parasol like a shotgun blast, and with shooting stars, she does the same thing rapid fire while riding the parasol like a witch's broom. Oh my god, I love this girl. It kind of goes back to Setsuka here, choosing a parasol as a way to mask your deadly abilities. Only instead of a sword, Edna's hiding planetary power. She's not worried about the rain because
I don't think she's even hiding it.
Storm. And that's why she floats in as the #1 greatest parasol wielder in video games. Well, that's another weapons list down, but I got one more loaded in the chamber. I'm the Green Scorpion, and next time,
lock and load, boys.
draw.
Yeah, it's Gunslingers next, but by the time you're watching this, it's gonna be on vacation, so it could be a while before I get to it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that video. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoyed the parasols, and adios.